Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
What is going on, my fellow devotees? Depeche Mode, the podcast here on My Nerd World. I'm your host, Jon Justice, and thank you once again for checking out this episode, dedicated to the greatest band in the world. At some point, I'm going to have to spend an episode talking about producers. I was having this thought over the course of the past week. I was looking for something among the plethora, of Depeche Mode video content that I own, that we all own, talking to my friend Matt about it, and he brought up, because I mentioned the remastered documentaries, which I love, and he mentioned Black Celebration, and I hadn't watched that one in quite a while. So, took it in, and was reminded while watching the documentary from the remasters just how influential the producers have been. And this is something that I've thought about a lot. I remember, personally, that even going, honestly, for all of the albums, finding out who the producer was going to be was almost as exciting as finding out what the song titles are. For me, at least. To a level where it almost carried more weight, because the producers on the various Depeche Mode albums have had such an influence on the way those albums turned out. And look, that's the case for most bands, right? That being said, with Depeche Mode, there's something unique that happens when that team is put together for the band. It extends beyond the creation of an album, too. It extends out into the media during interviews, and I was reminded of this as well because the Depeche Mode convention is coming up in Los Angeles in the next few weeks, and I was talking with Rob Rome from the Depeche Mode Global Fan Group, and brought up the name of Richard Blade, a DJ on K-Rock that I certainly grew up with and was just synonymous with Depeche Mode, and they've had a relationship with him for all of these years. You see kind of something similar happening with this trifecta that they've just completed of late-night talk shows here in the U.S. that we'll talk about in just a moment. My point is, the people that circle around the orbit of Depeche Mode and are used consistently throughout the years all become a part of that process. Some of it more creative when you look at the producer's side of things, and then some of it more in terms of promotion and letting more people know about the new material. But it just seems as if every time a producer comes in and works with the band, they have a massive effect on how the album ends up sounding, and they end up, by extension, becoming, at least for the time period of the creative process, a member of the band. And that is absolutely apparent in those documentaries. So I think at some point in time, I'm going to have to take time and talk about the production and specifically the producers on the albums and the impact that they had. And it slides into that era and the breaking up of the albums together in groups that I've talked about so often on the show as well. Top of my head, if you asked me who's the best producer ever for Depeche Mode, I'd have to say Flood. In the modern era, I'd go with James Ford, and more specifically that combination of James Ford and Marta Sologny on Memento Mori, because I just think the production on Memento Mori, and honestly, despite the lack of quality in terms of the musical content of Spirit, the production on that album is spectacular. So if you want to get in early on that, feel free to drop me a comment, talkshownerd@gmail.com, or leave a comment up on YouTube. I'd love to be able to bank those away for whenever I do that show. In the meantime, let's go ahead and dive into some of the news items this week. Not a lot going on. We'll cover what has happened, some of the announcements that have been made, and your listener feedback this week. Depeche Mode did complete that late-night trifecta, as I mentioned, as the band appeared on The Tonight Show to perform Wagging Tongue. Since announcing their latest album over a year ago, Depeche Mode first played the new single Ghosts Again on The Late Show in February, then played a song again on Jimmy Kimmel Live in March. On Friday, they went and played Wagging Tongue, and of course now that's turned into a quad set of shows since they've actually gone and done another performance, which was obviously, I think it was apparent, right? Recorded at the same time of my favorite Stranger that took place earlier this week. When Depeche Mode first unveiled, according to this piece from the Rolling Stone, unveiled their Memento Mori album, Rolling Stone spotlighted Wagging Tongue among the album's highlights, noting how the track is a rare songwriting collaboration between the band's Dave Gahan and Martin Gore. Gahan sings about feeling sadness when you watch another angel die over sparkly new wave synths that recall the group's earliest work. The lyrics, which Gahan sings ominously, could be, Rolling Stone writes, metaphoric indictment of politicians needing to act on gun safety. That's a bit of a stretch. Or Gahan could be singing about the rising above of personal obstacles. But either way, with a shimmery keyboard backdrop, the words have a way of sticking in your brain. They are currently at the midway point of their second leg of the North American tour, which will keep the band on the road till December 15th, and they'll end their trek in Los Angeles at the Crypto.com Arena before heading overseas for another leg in Europe. So what did you think of those performances of Wagging Tongue and My Favorite Stranger recently? It's a different energy than what we get when they perform live to thousands of people, that's to be sure. I will say that you go and watch those performances and put them next to the little promotional tour that they did overseas of the album before its release when they were debuting some of those songs for the first time. And it really shows you how far they've come in terms of getting to know this new material. Dave Gahan perfecting the vocals on those songs because they were nearly flawless in both of the performances this past week. And it's always just cool to see the guys, on TV and getting exposed to more people and letting them know about the album. The more people that continue to discover this band, the better. I love hearing from individuals who have found Depeche Mode and end up being drawn to them and captivated by them as much as I have. Again, it's an unnecessary affirmation of how special Depeche Mode are. And the more people that can enjoy them, the better. Speaking of the tour, we do have some news on that front as well. Announced on Instagram on Halloween, the band shared that there will be 4 different artists joining them across the 32 dates that take place between January and April 24th. It'll be interesting to see what the band ends up doing in terms of the set list. They have been going back to, on a few nights, the revamped set list and the inclusion of Policy of Truth and Black Celebration, which is another reason why I ended up going down the Black Celebration route lately, too. I gave that album a full listen this past week where I hadn't in quite a long time. And as always, you revisit an album in its entirety, not just tracks off of it. You hear it as you want to believe the band wanted it to be heard beginning to end. And Black Celebration is just an amazing, amazing piece of work. And among their top and their entire body of work goes without saying. Nadine Shaw will support the band for the UK dates in London, Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow, Dublin, Antwerp, Amsterdam, and Copenhagen. Humanist Susie Stapleton and Deeper will split the remaining dates as support acts. Responding to the news, Nadine Shaw posted on Instagram, 10 years ago, I opened for Depeche Mode around Germany. They're my ride or die band. This January, I joined them again because I just can't get enough. See you there, my friends. Humanist, the brainchild of producer and ex-Calm guitarist Rob Marshall, previously worked with Dave Gahan on the single Shock Collar back in 2020. Speaking with NME at the time of the project, Gahan said, it's great to work with people like this because they stretch you. Having been lucky enough to make music with other people for the last 40 years, I'm always looking for someone to take me out of my comfort zone, which makes me better at what I do in the long run. I've learned so much from the people with fresh ideas. Well, I nick so much, to be honest. Earlier this year, Depeche Mode discussed with the NME the determination to support the next generation of artists. It's a get up and do it for yourself spirit, Gahan said. Do it your way and don't be told how to do it. Eventually, it'll work out for you. So, these bands don't really have any bearing for me, But with the appearances of the band on these late-night shows, with the choice of these particular artists, it does at least appear, one, that the label and the promotion group around Depeche Mode understand that they need to capitalize, and they are, on the moment of how much popularity they have and how much praise there is for this new album and tour. On top of that, the individuals that appeal to the artists that I just mentioned are probably a younger set of individuals. And that helps as well to expose Depeche Mode to a newer generation, bringing on these types of opening bands that I, at the moment, have absolutely no familiarity with whatsoever. As always, if you want to drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com. Speaking of which, got a few we can run through this week from you, and I appreciate it. Stephanie from Germany writes, I wanted to tell you briefly about the reading of the new book Depeche Mode Live by Sasha Lang. It was a great trip back in time. The band fascinates me again and again. Such a history with this consistency probably does not repeat itself too often. I'm proud to be a member of this large fan community. Of course, the reading was sold out, and that completely without a performance of the protagonists. In the ad, they were she sent me a photo, and in the photo, it shows the author up on stage, and behind him was the ad where they were looking for a band member, the one that Alan Wilder ended up answering. I hope you're in good health. I am. Best regards from Germany, Stephanie. Thank you, as always. Friend of the show, Stephanie. I appreciate it. All right, let's get to, I believe this is Michael. Well, I finally made it from Australia to a Depeche Mode gig. And all I can say is that the Madison Square Garden show on Saturday night was extraordinary. I don't even think I can put it into words. And so I won't even try to comment on just how good the show and Dave's voice, etc. were, other than to say I'm so thankful I had this opportunity to finally see the band after so long. However, I will, comment on some sideline observations. Michael goes on to say, the relationship with Martin is clearly elevated to a new level. They seem like best friends reuniting each night. While the diehards will always want specific songs, the set list is great for the casual fan, which I would guess a majority of the audience were. And of course, they were all completely won over. Maybe in my head, it's still the mid-90s, but the average DM demographic clearly now is someone in their 50s and probably white European. Perhaps a little bit of me hoped for a more diverse audience. I think Ghosts Again will be a better setup for the floor. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He put GA, and I just immediately thought Ghosts Again. He meant General Admission. I think General Admission would be a better setup for the floor at their arena shows. Chairs seem kind of pointless. Is floor seating just a thing in America? Yeah, pretty much. I also caught U2 at the Sphere last week in Las Vegas. While I'm not a huge fan of Vegas, I certainly hope Depeche Mode play there one day. The visuals, I've actually seen Depeche Mode in Las Vegas. Saw them at the Hard Rock Cafe on the Exciter Tour. The visuals in particular were the visuals, and in particular the sound at the Sphere is unlike any concert venue I've experienced. No visible sound desk or speakers even, and all I could think of was how cool DM's music and Anton's visuals would work in that environment, even if it were just a smaller number of shows, as I can't see them being a Vegas residency band. No, I couldn't, but man, that would be interesting. I could spend some time talking about what a DM residency in Vegas would look like. Holy cow. People would move there. Fans would move to Vegas. I would move to Vegas. I actually like Vegas quite a bit. Thank you, Michael, as always. And cannot wait to see that show. We're down to just about... That's 2 weeks today. Holy cow. That's amazing. Time flies. Renee Lopez writes... So I had the privilege to watch DM on none other than our anniversary on 10/12. The concert was incredible, not one seat empty. I believe this tour has been so overwhelming in part because of COVID and the band not making an album or going on tour for so long, as DM fans were waiting for so long once the Memento Mori album was released. It allows us to listen and appreciate them with more gratitude. We don't really know if they'll be back or not, but we can say that they have left a legacy of incredible music like no other. I hope you enjoyed the show John, stay safe and God bless. Thank you, Renee. Yeah, there's no doubt I'm going to be enjoying this show. The hype is building. All right, and lastly, friend of the show, Jason writes, answering your question about going to DM shows when I was younger and now, the main difference of going between DM shows in the 80s and now are, back then there was an excitement of theorizing what the set list would be and the stage design and what it would be like. Even though tours would be underway, we had no way of knowing until the night. And for the synth geeks in my group of mates, what keyboards they would be using. These days, I know the set list, seen the stage design after the first night of the tour, seen recordings of several shows from the tour, all thanks to web. That's my fault for wanting to open up my Christmas presents before Christmas Day. With age-old creeping in, standing in the same spot for 4 or 5 hours, I feel like I feel it in the legs and back a lot more after the show. And this tour, the obscene pricing policy for tickets. Hopefully some fans who have been priced out of going to this tour might appreciate the article from the New York Post I found about the price of last-minute tickets for the remaining U.S. shows. The thought of fellow fans missing out because of ticket prices upsets me, so hopefully I might be able to grab one. That's what I did for the shows from, Sounds of the Universe, Playing the Angel, Delta Machine, and Spirit. I actually bought tickets way closer to the day of the show because they release them back and they're cheaper. It's always been that way. It's a gamble for sure, but I got amazing seats on the Delta Machine tour. When I saw them in Phoenix, I had 4th row, I think. And then even when I got there, I was able to move a little bit closer because there was just a handful of empty seats, like some people just didn't show up. So, yeah, if you have Depeche Mode coming to town and have avoided going because of the ticket prices, check the week of and just keep checking back because oftentimes you can find some amazing prices on decent seats. That wraps up the show for this week. I know I'm keeping it short, but I'm also running late on time and I think dinner's ready. Not that you care. I figured I'd tell you anyhow. Hey, listen, if you like science fiction and you read science fiction or you have a friend or family member that does, I hope you'll check out my science fiction space opera series, EMBARK. It's written for adults, but it's great for ages 11 plus in terms of the content. Nothing explicit in it, no language or anything like that. It's just classic freedom and liberty versus tyranny and oppression set in the future where air and spaceflight culture has replaced car culture, and the world has come to an end, and humanity heads to the distant planets to find a new life where you can follow a ragtag squadron of pilots and one reluctant hero on a journey of survival as they fight for their future among the stars. You can purchase hardcover and paperback copies directly from me. All you got to do is email talkshownerd@gmail.com. Let me know which book or books that you want, and I'll let you know how to pay for them. And it's less expensive than purchasing them over Amazon. If you read ebooks, you can get the entire series discounted, all 7 books in an ebook box set available on Amazon.com. But the entire series is available on ebook as well and audiobook. So go to Amazon, search for Jon, Jon Justice, and EMBARK, or mynerdworld.net. In the meantime, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the weekend. If for some reason you do live in the Twin Cities and you're listening to this, I'm doing a book signing and a meet and greet at Big Wood Brewery in White Bear Lake on Saturday from noon until 2. That's November 4th. If you want details on that, just drop me an email. I'll send them to you right away. talkshownerd@gmail.com. I hope wherever you are, you're happy, healthy, and you are safe. And I'll talk to you again next week. Bye.